Hello and welcome to the Career Change Podcast. Today I'm speaking to Adele Kamel Whitley, who is a life transformation coach and owner of By Yourself. So I'm really excited to speak to you today. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you for all the work you're doing in the world. I love your podcast.
Thank you. And I'm really excited about talking about this topic because first of all, I really recognize myself in your ideal client, and I recognize a lot of my clients also in that. So, really your whole life just living for the outside world, for that perfect picture, just as long as everything looks perfect on the outside. Meanwhile, you feel miserable on the inside, but that doesn't matter because everybody else sees that everything is perfect. And that's kind of like a very sad way to live. And I think now a lot of people are waking up and realizing I'm living someone else's dream. This is not what I wanted in life. I thought I wanted this, but actually it's my parents who want this, or maybe my friends, or the people that had my upbringing. And so that's why I really would love to just dig in this topic with you. And what's also very interesting that your story, like, because I feel like on your LinkedIn bio it says that you also felt that you had that for the outside it was perfect, but on the inside you weren't happy. So how did you change your life around?
It's been a long journey, but I also think that's why I can sit here and talk about this today and coach the people that I coach. So I always say I've been on and off buying myself. And with buying myself, I mean living a life that's true to myself, that, a life from my stories, my values, my beliefs, my dreams, my aspirations. And I've always had this feeling deep down that I knew what I wanted to do, but then on top came all, the layers of expectations and voices from the outer world and peer groups and family and what I should and how it should look like. And so when I say on and off, it's like I've been an entrepreneur for a big part of my life, but I've also climbed the corporate ladder. And most of the time I did what I should do, how it would look like on the outside. But sometimes I broke free only to then go back and go, well, I did study. I have an MBA in finance, so I might as well do the corporate career that everyone told me I should do. Um, but at some point, the pain of working against yourself and selling yourself and constantly waking up with the resistance of, I have everything. I have everything everyone told me I should have, but I don't feel the feeling that I thought I would feel when I received this. And when the pain of staying there becomes, harder than the actual realization of that you need to change, that's what happened to me. I realized that, I don't want to live my life like this. Like, life must be more than this. So I realized that something needed to change. I didn't know what. I didn't even know what was wrong. But that's when, I've been doing self development since I was 21. So I knew that you could
Oh,
always go back to yourself and find out the answers within yourself, which is always, always, always what we do. And for me, it was literally I realized I was on a trip to Mexico, and by
mhm.
accident, or I don't think there's too many accidents, but I did a value exercise that I haven't done for years, and I haven't even looked at my values for years. And after doing that exercise, I literally realized, like, whoa, now I know. Now I know exactly why I feel this resistance, because I was living fully, fully, fully misaligned with myself and my values. Like, everything I was doing was not what was on my value list. And that, like, that's what happened. That there it was, just in front of me. And just as soon as I realized that, once you know, you can't unknow. As soon as I realized that, there was no turning back. I had to, go down, look at my life and go, how do I live a life from me, from myself, from my values, from what I want, and start to create that life.
Amazing that you figured it out for yourself. Because what do you feel like is the danger for people who don't, who keep on living for the outside world and really not being true to what they want? Because I think a lot of people might not even realize this or be very conscious about this.
Yeah, honestly, Christy, most people lie to themselves for most of their lives. And the danger is that you're building a life that you don't even want. You're working so hard to create a life that everyone else told you you should have, and you're working against yourself. So the biggest danger here is you're building a life. You have one life, and now you're building it based on what everyone else wants you to do and how everyone else wants you to live. And you keep chasing these validations from everything else, but you're also step by step by step disconnecting from yourself. And in the beginning, this just might, manifest like, I'm not happy, I'm fulfilled, a bit bored. But during a longer period of time, this can lead to, in physical manifestation. Like you talk a lot about burnout and anxiety, and I would even say diseases that's kind of
Mm.
irreversible. So yeah. So you can go everything from the happiness part and the having a day-to-day life that you love to actual diseases in your, further down the line if you don't do anything about it.
Yes, I think when you have that, when you have a burnout or you have that, start to think, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I still happy with what I'm doing? Because probably, or if you have some sort of an ailment or ache or pains in your body, there's probably more to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you also talk about people pleasing a lot. And why do you think women struggle so much with setting boundaries and saying no?
Because that's how we've conditioned since we were little. We're conditioned to look around and nurture everything and everyone around us. We're conditioned that as long as everything around us is and everyone around us is happy, then we're safe. But every time you people please, you also give away a piece of yourself. Every time you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to you. And that doesn't mean you can't say yes to other people, as long as it doesn't come at the cost of you, what you want, what you value, what you believe, and also your energy. I'm huge on energies. I believe I don't do so much time management. I do more energy management in everything I do.
Mm.
Who I spend time with, the tasks that I do, where I go, what I eat, how I spend my life, how I spend my days, all boils down to energy. So I'm just thinking that, and this mindset of constantly seeking this external validation and making everyone else happy will keep you and or us stuck and unhappy, and we're literally sacrificing our happiness for someone else's happiness. And I don't believe we're on this world to make anyone else happy if that is on the cost of yourself.
Yeah, I think you really need to see, like, because sometimes it's really nice to do something else for someone else because it really gives you like a really good feeling. So I think that's really important to feel with yourself. Am I doing it because I'm really enjoying it, or am I just doing it to please someone else? And actually, I really don't feel like doing it, but I don't want to say no.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think many people, women especially, tie their self-worth to how much they're doing for others. And that's dangerous. Dangerous,
Yes.
right? Because then all of a sudden, if you don't show up for others, if you don't please others, if you don't say yes, then you're worth nothing. And
Yeah.
what do all people want? They want and deserve to feel worthy. So connecting that
Yeah.
achievement to your worthiness is super, super, super dangerous.
I think it's that, doing stuff for other people and also in your career, being very successful and overworking. And I guess also for others, because you may be picking up a project for someone else, helping a colleague or something. Because that's what I see with my clients also a lot, that it's just never enough. They're such perfectionists and always put the ladder, they always put it here and then they reach the goal and then it's like they have another thing. It's like never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what point is it enough? That's why I always ask them,
Yeah.
like, do you really believe that once you've reached this that you will stop? No.
No.
Because if you tie your self-worth on this level, you'll also tie your self-worth on this level. So the work needs to start from inside.
So yeah, it's kind of like a trap. Yeah. You
Yeah.
need to be conscious of it because otherwise it will lead to eventually a burnout.
Yeah.
um
And
and what
do
do you
more.
feel like your
Sorry.
what do you feel like your clients struggle with the most? Like, what's the biggest issue? Do you see also a lot of burnout or other things?
Yeah, I think burnout will be the effect of
Yeah.
what my clients struggle with the most, which is to be true to themselves. So many of my
Mm.
clients come to me and they want to achieve this, or they want to do this, or they want to do that. And the first question I ask them is, do you really want to do that? Like, where does this
Mm.
come from? Where did this idea start? Just to understand if this came from them, or if this came from a conditioning from the parents or from society. So the main thing that my clients struggle with is understanding where this desire or where this comes from. And it's hard because many times they hold on so much to this identity that they created. Let's say they're 30 or 40 years old. So for 30 or 40 years old, you've been taught, you've been taught or you thought that this is what you wanted and this is who you are. So when we start to mess around with their thinking and maybe also poke holes in these lies, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of scary. And some people kind of cling on to this identity and kind of find excuses and negotiate. But at the end of the day, the more we dig and we realize that there is another and deeper desire down, under all these layers of conditioning. Once we find that, there's this kind of release and sense of freedom with my
Mm.
clients. But to get there, it takes time, and I can sense sometimes there's a lot of struggle. They
Yeah.
resist that because all of a sudden they're resisting themselves or who they think that they are, and in order to step into who they really are, which is reconnecting back to who they were born, how they were born, who they are when they were born, and not after putting on all these layers of other people's opinions and behaviors and habits and expectations and shoulds and must and thoughts.
I already get exhausted listening to
Yeah.
because yeah, also with my clients I see that say they kind of buried their passions away. So say they really want to be an actress or something creative, but their parents were lawyers. Then they said, no, 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 don't do that. Come work for us for the lawyer's firm and go study that. And then they kind of just forgot about their dream.
Yeah.
And then they come to me saying, okay, well, I want to do this. And then also if I ask, well, is that really what you want? Then it's actually, well, actually no. But then they get completely confused because then it's like, I don't even know who I am anymore. And that's what we will really do to figure out, okay, but who are you behind all the masks you wear? Who are you truly without trying to please others or fit in? And then that's how we start with looking for a new career.
Yeah.
So,
And
how, how do you help your clients with, because I'm more focused on career, but how do you help your clients live more a life that's true to them?
yeah, so the first thing I do, the first question I always ask my clients is, when was the last time you spent time with yourself? And everyone goes
Mm,
like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, yeah, with yourself, like no phone, no TV, no one around you, not even in meditation. Like, when was the last time you sat down and got to know yourself? And most people have not done that in their whole life because that's not what you do. Many people are so caught up in the doing, in the doing, in the doing. So when I actually want them to just go back to the being and go, so I asked them like, but how do you know yourself? How do you know what you like? Like, you knew that when you were born because no one had put their own thoughts in conditioning, but 30 years down the line you change. How do you know who you are? So that's what we start with. We start with reconnecting them with themselves, being in the being and listening to their own thoughts and asking themselves, who am I? How do I want to live my life? How do I want my day-to-day life look like? What makes me happy? What fulfills me? What's my stories? What stories do I want to believe? What's my values? How do I live from my values? What's my dreams and aspiration? Not TV or my parents or my friends. And start to, and this is a journey, so it takes quite a long of time because this also takes you to be brutally honest. And being brutally honest also requires for you to realize that you've been either lied to or you've been lying to yourself your whole life. Not in
mm,
all areas, but many, many, many aspects or areas of life, many people are doing just because they've been told to or thought or seen on TV or read in a book. Uh, and then they just took that truth as their own truth and ran with it.
yeah. So when I was feeling very lost, in my career, and I really didn't know who I was or what I wanted. I didn't even know that that I didn't know that. But then eventually I found out, oh, I actually don't really know who I am.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna, instead of on a Friday night go out with my friends, which I always did, I'm gonna go sit at home by myself.
Yes.
And I think everybody thought I was crazy, and
It's
I
very
thought I
good.
was going crazy, but it really helped there. Like also in the weekends, like instead of doing things, I just went to go for a walk by myself in nature, and it was just so such a different reality for me, coming from a place where I was very social, always I
Yeah.
was at all the parties, always connecting with people.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting experience. But through that time of really being alone, I really found so many answers. And then I realized like how much we never allow ourselves to even think about these things, because we're just always constantly busy. And if we're not busy with people, we're on our phones. And if we're not on our phones, we're busy working, or it's
Yeah.
crazy if you think about it.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you said. Like I tell my clients, like, what if you would say no this Friday and just sit home and do nothing? And they go, but I can't. I'm not busy. So, but I tell them, but just because there's an open slot in your calendar doesn't mean you're free. And for
Mm.
them in the beginning, they don't understand. It's like, but what do you mean? I can't say no if I have time. Yes, you can, because you can also plan time with yourself. You can plan time to recharge. So we like learning to set boundaries, first of all, with yourself, because all starts in your
Mhm.
head, right? With your own thoughts. So set
Yeah.
boundaries on your thoughts, but then set boundaries to the outer world. Just like you did, like it's okay to sit home and do nothing. It's okay to have a walk in nature alone. You don't have to ask a friend, even if that friend would love to come with you. It's not even okay. It's crucial.
So then what happened afterwards is that I became an air hostess, and
Mm,
would travel around the world. And at some locations, some colleagues didn't feel like doing anything. So then I was like, okay, I'm by myself. I'm going to go into a city by myself.
yeah,
And I remember the first feeling was, they're so anxious. Like I'm all alone. I'm
yeah,
all alone, like by myself. And that was really something I really had to get over. And
mm,
then, like maybe a couple of months, I don't know, later, it felt like freedom. Also, when I came back home and all my friends were working, I was just at home. I had free time. I was off.
yeah,
It was in the beginning so hard. Like I was like, what am I going to do with myself? And all of a sudden, I learned to be alone. And I think that's the most freeing feeling also, when you just learn to accept yourself and and learn to be with yourself, learn to get to know yourself like that. It's very intimate all of a sudden, like being
yeah.
alone with you,
I get
but very
goosebumps.
freeing.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I fully agree. And like I said, freeing and fulfilling, and it's like nothing can touch you because now you know who you are. There's a sense of
Yes.
yeah, of peace and
Yes, very
wholeness.
peaceful.
Yeah.
Mm. So getting back to the career, because I'm a career coach, of course,
Mhm.
why do you think it's so important for women to find a meaningful and fulfilling career that's really true to who they are?
Mm. I've always been, I've always lived with the story that you know, yes, you should divide your life and your career in terms of setting boundaries. When you're not working. But also, like, why does so many people think that it's okay for their career to be miserable
Mm,
and then think that then they will go back to their life and that's going to be a good life? Because you spend
mm,
so much time in your work. And essentially, that also becomes a big part of who you are, not your identity, but like, you know, who you're spending your time with and, you know, what you're pursuing during the days. So if you're not in a career that's aligned with you and your values and how you want to live your life and how you know what you want to accomplish on the bigger sense and you know how you want to bring purpose or how you want to contribute to the world, I don't see any purpose in that. You know, there's no point in going and doing something on a day-to-day basis that does not align with you and your life. So it's just gonna leave you maybe with a bit of money, but you will feel empty and you will feel like you're not contributing in a way that you actually can. You're not living to your full potential. And everyone in this world wants, you know, Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. You know, there's two things: growth and contribution. And if we're
mm,
not in a job that contributes these two, then you know what are we doing? You literally, you know, there's this saying that many people they die at 37 or 40 and they get buried at 75, 80. And that's what happens because you're in a job that doesn't fulfill you as a person as well. So aligning, you and your career and what this job allows you to do and who this job allows you to become and how this job allows you to contribute to society is crucial.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients also say they find that their work is not meaningful. Like they're not
Mhm.
adding anything to society, not adding any
Yeah.
impact. They're just selling something that maybe no one actually really needs,
Mhm.
um, and they want actually to do something for society.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also like really think that it really causes a ripple effect as well. So if you're not happy in your career, you're probably snappy at your husband. You probably don't feel like playing with your kids. You don't feel like going to the gym or seeing your friends. So it causes like, yeah, it
Absolutely.
affects all areas of your life.
Yeah, and then if you look at that from that point of view, like what kind of role model are you now to your kids?
Mhm.
Now you're
Yeah.
all of a sudden showing your kids that this is how work and life is. This is what they're gonna model. This is we talk about conditioning or taking on like picking up on behaviors from your parents. So all of a sudden you're showing your kids that it's okay to work in a job that makes you miserable. And then you also say, well, mommy's tired today because she hates her job. What are your kids going to think? They're also going to think that it's okay to have a job that you hate because that's what mommy had. So you're role modeling a life that you don't want. And then all of a sudden, you're also passing that on to your kids. And I think this is where we need to start looking at how can we stop this? How can we in this generation stop passing that on to down to other generations, what we've been taking on from previous ones, right? The conditioning again.
I'm actually working with this one client on her belief that a job should actually be fulfilling. So her core belief is that a job shouldn't be fulfilling. It should just
Oh, wow.
pay the bills because that's just how her belief has been her whole life. She doesn't know any different to that. And I thought that was yeah, quite shocking that, and I've heard it more often. I've seen it more often, people that really say, but work, it's not meant to be fulfilling or
Yeah.
fun. It's
Yeah.
just really it's there so that I can buy food for my
Yeah.
kids or pay the
Yeah, and then
rent.
that's when it comes in, like if you talk about by yourself, and then like according to whom? Like at what
Mm,
point in your life did you pick up this story and this belief? Who told you this? And that's what I meant with parenting. Like, where did you pick
mm,
this up? Because it came from some place. You
yeah.
just didn't make this up yourself. And then like I've seen many of your posts on LinkedIn. You can also rewrite that belief in that story. We can believe something else. We can choose that we want to believe something else, right?
I think you can create a whole different world just by
Yeah,
changing your mindset, by changing your beliefs. Because if
100%.
you can believe that has to be shit, you can also believe that work can be amazing. Like it's just a
Yeah,
thought, right?
yeah.
But you just have to see which thought you're going to entertain.
Exactly, and which thought you want to have. And I also say that everything is neutral until you give it a meaning, right?
Mm,
So suffering is all about the meaning we give any event that's happening to us in our life.
yeah. Yeah, it's very powerful, the
Mm.
mindset.
Can you
And then,
imagine?
any last piece of advice for women listening or watching today who, yeah, are really just really feeling stuck in their career and life?
Yeah, my advice is always start with you. It all starts with you. And the tagline of my company is you cannot sell anything to anyone before you buy yourself. Meaning,
Mm,
every single one of us, we go out in this world every day and we're selling ourselves, to everyone else. So we're selling ourselves in interviews, we're selling ourselves to our kids, to our husband, to our friends, like everything we are, we're just constantly selling who we are as a person. But if you haven't bought into that person, if you haven't bought into the stories and the beliefs and the values and the dreams and aspirations, if you're not living from that place from yourself, now all of the sudden you're going out and you're selling this fake person. You're not selling you, so you're not showing up as you. So I always say start with you and ask yourself, is the life that you're living a life that you have truly chosen? Or is it shaped by other people's expectations? And you don't have to make like drastic overnight changes. You just have to be brutally honest with yourself. Because sometimes there's layers and some stories can be easier to uncover than other because they're not so deep rooted, and they, you can, some things you can compromise on, and some things you literally don't want to leave, like you're holding on to them as if it's your whole truth. But once you start to uncover these layers and start to, take off these lies and go like, well, no, I don't want to believe this, and no, I don't want to see this, or this is a story I want to have in order for me to be true to myself, and start setting those boundaries and exploring your own passions, now you can start showing up and living life and going out in the world as yourself. So I would just say, go back to yourself and ask yourself, like, is this what I want? Or also feel into your body, like, is there any resistance somewhere? Because usually where there's resistance, there's also a signal from your body. It's you talking to you. So you're telling, your body is screaming at you, or, giving you signals that there's something here that's not right. I want you to listen to me. So, getting in touch with yourself and your body, listening to those signals, which if we don't, will lead to burnout, like you talk a lot about. And
Mm.
literally stop selling yourself out and start creating, space for the life that's meant for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. It's such, yeah, the good news is that you can change your mind, you can change your whole life. You don't have to stay stuck like this. You just need to discover who you really are, and then move forward and go into the direction and take baby steps.
Yeah.
But it's all possible, and it's never too late to change.
No.
um, so there,
Yeah.
there is just so much hope still there. And
Yeah.
luckily,
And
with
then,
the help of coaches like you and me, people can really make huge steps in their lives.
absolutely. And I also say you cannot see the label from inside a jar. And that meaning, like, you cannot see your own blind spots. So I have a coach.
Mm,
I bet you have a coach, Christy. And
yes.
at some point, like when what I just said, like you said, what would you give them as a first step? I know it sounds like a huge thing to do, like, being brutally honest, and sometimes it can be very scary. And that's why, having someone that holds you by the hand, and also realizing that it's just about that first next step. It's not about the mountain we're going to climb. It's just about, what can we do as a next step? And what can we do as a next step? And every time you take a step towards your authentic self or your true self, or every time you start buying yourself, now all of a sudden you feel how that feels like. And that feeling is something I would say kind of addictive. I mean, you know how
Mm,
when you started to getting closer to yourself, and once you feel, it's like this action, result, and belief circle. So once you take actions and you see a bit of results, then all of a sudden
yeah.
you start having belief that, oh, okay, this actually works and it actually is nice and it feels good. So you start taking some more actions. And this, with the help of a coach, is always, always,
Mm,
always a safer space than just throwing yourself out there in the world on your own and start reconnecting. Yeah.
yeah. I think what for me really helped me, yeah, I would never be where I am today without the help of coaches.
Same.
And then, you learn a lot, but if you don't take any action, then you have all the knowledge, but you're
Yeah.
still at the same place. But then I realized once I actually start take the action, that's when things really start to change, and I really started to grow.
Yeah.
And yeah, now things have just changed so much. So it's
Yeah.
very powerful to do that, working on yourself and your personal development.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything more rewarding in life. And I like about that action part. Like many people say that knowledge is key. No, no, no. Knowledge is not key. You can sit on all the knowledge in the world. Execution is key.
100%.
Mm.
Take action. All
Take action.
right.
Oh, I can
Thank you
talk
so
about this
much
for
for being
hours,
here
Christy.
today. Yeah, it was really fun and really insightful. And thanks so much for being here. And also want to thank everybody for listening and watching. And till next time.
Thank you.